An easy way to sew a mitered seam in your binding strips is to let the ruler and the mat do some of the work for you. So I've lined up one edge of my binding strip on one of the inch marks on the mat and the other crossing it with that 45-degree line intersecting where they cross here, and of course the fabrics are right side together. Now I'm going to place my ruler over that, and I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch mark with that 45-degree line on the mat. And then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and cut through both layers. Now I've got the appropriate amount of overlap, so when I sew a 1/4 inch seam, I'll be sewing it along that 45-degree line and everything will line up. So now I'm going to keep those lined up with those little tails sticking out as I sew with a 1/4 inch seam right along that bias edge. Now you don't want to pull too much on that edge. That bias will stretch. That's where the most stretch in the fabric is, so you want to make sure you're not pulling too hard. So as you can see, because of the way we lined up and cut, that top edge is straight and the bottom edge is straight. Of course, we'll need to nip that little point off with some scissors, but the reason that you do a diagonal seam in your binding is because if you did a straight seam and then you folded your binding in half to apply it, you'd have a big lump of all the seam allowance in one place on your binding. With this diagonal seam, that seam is much more spread out, so as you're bringing it around, there won't be one place where all those seam allowances are. From here, when you're attaching binding, then of course you press it with the wrong sides together and then attach it as desired